Good morning, everybody. It's Friday, December the 2nd, 2016. A special Weber This Week show. My friend, District Attorney Barry Porsch, is joining us this morning, talking about his job and a lot going on in the District Attorney's office. We'll get an update from Barry on several topics, but it's good to have him in the house, and we welcome you to our show on a special broadcast. And we finally got Barry to arrive, and got to tell you a quick story. Barry was scheduled to come in on the 21st of November. We had booked a date, and he's not an easy guy to schedule because he's so busy. Then we had the 28 inches of snow, thus we wiped out that appearance, which was a unilateral decision, by the way. I couldn't get out of my apartment. He couldn't get out of his house. And Jimmy said, that's a good move. Then, of course, we booked him for last Wednesday, and something came up on our end, so we had to cancel the show. And Barry, it's good to have you here. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Harold. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Jim.
I go back to the days where I met Barry when you brought your mother-in-law into the Gould.
Yep, she loves staying down there whenever she came to town.
Exactly. Now, Barry, talk about, for the folks that obviously many people checking out the show this morning know you and know a lot about you, I think. You've been a district attorney for how many years now?
7 years.
And it's a 10-year term?
4-year term. I'm up for re-election next year again.
Oh, next year again, okay. Are you going to go for the re-election? Or?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Because there's been a little rumors around the coffee shops that you may hold back and decide to run for judge. Any truth to that rumor?
No truth to that. Judge Bender is the judge. He has a 10-year term. I believe he's been in office 3 years now on that term. I think he has 7 years left on that term.
And then, unfortunately, he has to vacate because of the age limit.
Once he turns 70.
70. Right, I understand that because we had him on the show last year, and he was a hard guy to get in here, but he finally came in, and I appreciated that. So that's the Constitution, right? It indicates the judges have to retire at 70. Interesting. That's an interesting law because I understand probably why they have it, but as you know, age is the 70s today, maybe the 55s, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And they're certainly competent. They could continue.
A lot of good, yep.
Yeah. And it's funny with the Supreme Court, there's no age limit.
No.
Serve
until they haul you away.
That's right. It's pretty interesting. Well, I don't know about Donald Trump or anything else. I didn't pick that race very well, but I got to tell you something. As an American citizen, I feel much more prouder if we could get 9 justices instead of 8.
Yes.
You know, I think that's the way it should work. But enough about that stuff. Barry, we go back a long time together, and certainly I've watched you perform in court and do your thing, and I don't mean to use the term performing like it's a circus. It might be a circus in your own mind trying to put it together, but you seem to be dedicated to the degree where you and your team, and I had Megan Peters along with Mark Sankovich on the show, 2 of your members of your staff, and we want to have you give praise to the other people that work in your department as well before the show ends. But it sounds like, and I know full well, knowing you personally as well as I think I know you, the fact that you take your job to heart, and you certainly probably have a lot of restless nights sleeping about protecting the citizens of Seneca County, which you are responsible for. And it's a tough sled, and I know there are things that turn out that may not go your way, but certainly I know you give it your best. And I think just starting off, that's a credit to you and to your team.
Thank you. Yeah, that is true. We take every case seriously. We wouldn't take them if we didn't think it was we didn't have our heart in it. And when you do lose a case, it does hurt.
And I think I watched Megan and I watched Mark do their thing. While we're on that topic, let's talk about other members besides Mark and Megan. Let's talk about, I know Pat Morrell.
Yes.
He is the town attorney, and he's been in your office for some time.
He's the longest-serving employee in my office, Pat Morrell. He's a part-time ADA. Donna Cathy hired him. He served through Donna, served through Rich Swinehart, and obviously he's been with me now for 7 years. I have another part-time assistant who we just hired about 2 months ago. Her name is Brooke Moore. She is from Waterloo.
Okay.
Very young attorney. I have 2 secretaries. Barb Brewer is my confidential secretary. I have another secretary I just actually hired about 2 months ago. Her name's Amy DeSica from Waterloo. Okay. And I have a part-time investigator, Frank Smitter. He's kind of my right-hand man. He just kind of does everything I need to have done, and just a great guy. real hard worker. He's a retired member of the state police. He's been with me now for, I think, 5 years.
And kudos to Frank, because I've met him several times. I shook his hand the other day at court when I was with you. When Megan was on, along with Mark, they indicated that there were many times during their trials and their participation in the court system that they would have been lost without Frank.
Yes, because when you're in court, you don't have time to go outside the courtroom to find a witness or talk to a witness or get a piece of paper or get a document, whatever, get an exhibit. Whereas Frank is available, he does that kind of thing for us. He'll go around and get something that we need, and it's really invaluable work that he does when we're in trial.
And she gave a lot of kudos to her because she said he saved the day a lot of times for her.
Yes.
Since she's come to Seneca County. So kudos to you, Frank, if you're checking us out this morning. Keep up the excellent work. A couple of things that we need to talk about. This is a special Weber This Week show. Barry Porsch, my special guest, a longtime friend of mine and my family's. Barry does a wonderful job protecting us as best as he can, and he does and his team work to protect the citizens of this county when crimes are committed. A couple of notes. I know you're not the judge, but I gotta say the decision by Judge Bender, and I'm not criticizing Judge Bender. He's a good guy. He's a good friend of mine. Were you surprised at all the Brown trial relative to the person that went across the lane and indicated and smashed the car, resulting in a death? I think a lot of people were taken back and maybe shocked at the judge's decision to not issue any jail time. I think the penalty or the sentence was 1,000 community hours and 10 years probation or 5 years probation. Did that stun you based on, I know Judge Bender makes the decision on what the sentence should be, but you being a human being as well, was that surprising at all? Did that surprise you?
No, it did not surprise me. In our discussions with the judge, long before the individual pled guilty, the judge indicated the maximum sentence would be shock probation, which would be 6 months jail, 5 years probation, and it could go lower depending on what he heard. Now, the judge, he read a lot of letters from the victims' families. He read letters on behalf of the defendant. The defendant pled guilty to a Class E felony, the lowest level felony that there is. The maximum state prison sentence is 1 1/3 to 4 years. But this was not like the Earl Wilson case where the guy was a .23 BAC and he crossed over and killed two people on a motorcycle, and that guy had a terrible record. Ralph Brown had no record. I don't think he even had a traffic ticket conviction, and he's in his mid-50s. He wasn't drunk. I did indict him for being impaired, which is lower than being intoxicated. So I was not surprised by the sentence. I know some people were upset by it, but if you know the whole facts behind the case, and I investigated that case very thoroughly, I wasn't surprised by the sentence. I'm not upset by the sentence.
Interesting. Because what was brought to my attention, and maybe it's not oranges to oranges, was the fact that Mike Hibbert, who reports for the Finger Lakes Times, who's in your court every Monday and does the story for the Times, indicated that when he does his outline case after case, how it turned out in court on Mondays, they talked about the Brown sentencing by Judge Bender, and right below that was a gentleman who you indicted or brought to trial, or maybe not to trial, for grand larceny. And he got 2.5 to 4. And people were coming up to me at the diner saying the relativity of understanding that to the common person who's not a lawyer, who's not a district attorney. They couldn't understand that.
Yes.
And you could understand that.
I can. I'm not familiar with what that grand larceny case was about, but it could be if somebody got that on a grand larceny, my guess is they probably had a record. They probably had prior convictions where if you have a prior felony conviction, it's mandatory then state prison. That's probably what happened in that case.
Gotcha. Okay, interesting. Well, Barry Porsch is my special guest this morning, and yes, the Roger Barto trial, I guess I call it the Roger Barto soap opera, continues. Barry will update us on what the latest is. Things did develop on Monday, and he'll explain what this all means as we continue the Roger Barto trial and to try to bring it to closure one way or the other. This is Weber This Week, a special show this morning with Barry Porsch, the District Attorney of Seneca County. Let's take a break and hear from our great sponsors that make this show possible. Cayuga Lake National Bank. Visit Bill Ryan and his team for all of your banking needs. Offices in Union Springs and Aurora a fine sponsor of this show for over 30 years. DA Liquor on Bridge Street in Seneca Falls. Amy Padula and her team will find the right spirit for you every time. When you stop in, tell Amy the dog sent you. Steve Wadhams and Wadhams Enterprises, your local employer of choice. Proud supporter of Weber This Week and local athletics. Fill out an application at wadhams.com. The Gould Hotel welcomes you to come out and enjoy the revitalization of this historic downtown Seneca Falls landmark. Every Wednesday is Ladies' Night with special price drinks and half-priced appetizers. Learn more at thegouldhotel.com. The Omen Theater on William Street in Lyons. See what's playing this week at omentheater.com. Located off New York State Thruway Exit 41, the Mcgee Diner has earned their reputation as a popular family restaurant, serving country, fresh, home-cooked meals daily. Stop in for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and check out their menu at mcgeediner.com. Del Lago Resort and Casino will feature a luxurious 205-room hotel, several restaurants ranging from casual to fine dining, and a 2,500 capacity entertainment venue called The Vine. The casino will have 2,000 slot machines, 75 table games, and 10 poker tables. Visit www.dellagoresort.com. Seneca Metals is an award-winning company that has earned a reputation of going above and beyond to protect the environment and support their community. As an EPA inspector once said, their operation is head and shoulders above the rest. The Seneca Falls Country Club, awesome 18-hole layout, open to the public, and a 12-month payment plan for members. Check out SenecaFallsCountryClub.com. And the Newark Pilots of the Perfect Game Collegiate Baseball League, a minor league team with a major league ballpark. Season ticket packages available at NewarkPilots.com. And the Wilson Press in Seneca Falls. My good pal Rich Rickey and his team can handle all of your printing and mailing needs. Visit them online at wpress.com. Rich Rickey and Wilson Press, a fine sponsor of Weber This Week. Welcome back, everybody. It's a dog with you on a Friday special Weber This Week show. Barry Porsch, District Attorney, is joining me. Longtime friend, and I respect his work and his office's work, and does a great job for the county. And guess we need to appreciate him and his office and the people a lot more than we do. I guess we take for granted what they do up there, but I know that I'm much more comfortable knowing that they're fighting for the victims of Seneca County. By the way, Barry, before we go on to the Roger Barto situation, you could update our viewers regarding where that stands, because I'm a little confused of what it means. I was asked by a friend of mine up in Geneva, Carol Cosentino. This brings back some really sorry memories. 1986, when a young lady out at the convenience store outside of Seneca Falls was murdered. Donna Guerri, age 27. You know the story pretty well. The district attorney at the time was Dennis Bender. Senseless killing. Holly Coomber at the time was 17, and William Allen, I think he was in his 40s at the time, got $100 and some, $130. But Carol wanted to pass on. She was Donna's sister, and the Guerri family and the O'Neill family cannot send out enough thank yous to you and appreciation to you and your team, along with Mike Nazzolio, that continues to fight to keep them in prison where they belong. Yes. And she wanted to make sure you knew that, and they really appreciate your efforts.
Well, thank you. We work hard to keep her in prison for what she did. And,
you know, it's just one of the tragic stories of Seneca County history.
Yes.
That murder.
Senseless murder.
Just amazing. And
they apply for clemency, at the governor's office like every year, and I always oppose it. Senator Nazzolio has always opposed it. So far, we've won every year.
And by the way, they went on to Georgia and did the same thing down there and killed another person and got $52. So pretty sad. Okay, let's go back to contemporary into the area. The Roger Barto trial has continued. I was in Monday, did not know that he was expected to come in. I saw you come in, so I knew something was going on. He was there to be sentenced as the appellate court. And explain to the viewers the difference between what appellate court we're talking about, the one that just affirmed the conviction. What is that one it's called?
It's called the Appellate Division of the New York State Supreme Court, which is based in Rochester. We have 2 appeals courts in the state.
Okay.
That's the intermediate appeals court. And then the highest appeals court would be the Court of Appeals in Albany.
Okay.
So he went to the intermediate appeals court, the Appellate Division, lost in a unanimous decision. As you know, Harold, the court wrote a very lengthy decision where they said there are absolutely no injuries.
Exactly. Yeah. So then you appear with Mr. Muldoon, his attorney, and you told the judge, let's move on to sentencing. And Muldoon references the fact that he was going to call a judge at the highest court level. Is that the way it works?
Yes.
Judge Stein?
Yes.
Now, how many members of the highest court are there?
There's 7.
7. So somehow you and Mr. Muldoon go to another room and get on a conference call, and she issues what is called a stay?
Yes.
So explain to what does all that mean?
Well, he had us when he went to the intermediate appeals court. He had a stay of his sentence. The court up there granted him a stay.
Right.
So he was left out. He got out of jail after 7 days.
Right.
Once they affirmed that decision, the appellate division, in their order, ordered him to for further proceedings to appear in county court, basically. And Judge Bender was going to tell him, basically go to jail. And Gary Muldoon called the Court of Appeals. As you know, I think you were there in court.
Right.
Right in the middle of the court proceeding, he asked the judge to stop everything and order the DA to go with me to a telephone to call the Court of Appeals. So I was ordered to go with him to find a phone, and he called the Court of Appeals and talked to a judge, and the judge granted his relief over the phone. I obviously opposed it over the phone. And then the Court of Appeals did issue a written order, an hour or 2 later, I guess. So the sentencing was stayed again.
Stayed again.
So
you have to issue paperwork. Muldoon issues.
Yeah. So to go to the Court of Appeals, our highest court, it's by permission for the most part. You have to file an application. Now, Barto's attorney has filed that application. I have until December 23 to file my response. Now, if the court grants his application, then they'll consider the whole appeal next year at some point. If they deny the application, the case is all done, and they'll direct him to reappear in county court for imposition of sentence.
And percentage-wise, it doesn't look good for his side because you said they only take 3% of cases?
Roughly about 3% of the cases are granted leave. On the other hand, though, this is an unusual case.
What I'm amazed at is you two went to another room on Monday when I was in court, and they got a hold of a judge via the phone. How does that happen? Judge is so busy, and let alone the highest court in the state.
I was surprised by that.
I was shocked to hear that part of it.
My opposing counsel has a lot of pull, apparently.
It must be.
I don't know. I don't think I could get a judge on the phone like that, and especially get relief granted.
I can't even get Jim Senecropi. I'm just kidding, Jim. I mean, but, it's amazing to me how that transpired.
Very unusual.
Even my wife said, how's the judge around? I mean, is the judge just waiting there for someone to call her? I mean, it's like calling up the Supreme Court.
Yes.
I'd like to talk to somebody, Ruth Ginsburg. Is that her name? One of them, right? Amazing. Well, okay, so that's where we are with the Barto trial. And so eventually, when the paperwork gets filed, and then when will the decision, the earliest decision will be made, whether that will proceed or whether that will be a stay?
Judge Stein indicated on the phone that she would probably likely have a decision, the court would have a decision within 2 months of December 23.
Okay. 2 months?
Within 2 months. They'll either grant his application or deny it. If they grant the application, then the record on appeal will be filed. We'll both do briefs, legal briefs, and go up there and argue it sometime next year.
Okay. Wow, interesting how the process works.
And a lot of people ask me, "What do you think they're going to grant it?" The odds are against it, but on the other hand, this is so unusual that they may just grant it.
Now, 7 members. How many has to vote to grant it? A majority, or do they all have to agree?
Well, it goes in front of a single judge.
Okay.
This leave application.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yes.
She makes the determination, or he makes the determination.
Yes, I'm not sure about the internal workings, whether they have like a staff attorneys working. They might have staff attorneys working the case, and
Gotcha.
They might conference it, I'm not sure, but
Okay.
the application is to a single judge.
Gotcha. Interesting.
And it'll be Judge Stein.
Well, I certainly appreciate the update because I was leaving court shaking my head going, what is going on around this?
A lot of us were shaking our heads
Yeah,
that day, Harold. Very frustrating, I'll say that.
I must tell you, give you a chance to respond to this. During their decision at the appellate level, they didn't criticize you. They said that they thought you were over the top regarding your arguments at the sentencing side of it to demand or to request the 2.5 to 7 years. What was your reaction to that? I mean, I know you were giving your best shot at this. Were you surprised that they brought up you? In fact, I'm sure it's not, I mean, it's the first time.
No, because the defense argued that I said things
Yeah.
that I shouldn't have said at sentencing,
Yeah.
and obviously the court ruled that I shouldn't have said a couple things.
Yeah.
I talked for like about 20 minutes at
Yeah.
sentencing. I said a lot of things. This
Sure.
was a case that went on for over 2 years. It was a rough case. You know, I was personally attacked nonstop by the defense. I've never been attacked before in a case like this,
Right.
and it took a toll on me. As you know, Harold,
Sure. I know.
I was very sick during that 2-week trial.
I was there every day. Yeah.
My wife was so sick she had to be hospitalized, and I mentioned that at the sentencing about being sick and her being sick. So that's the comment the court said I shouldn't have brought up, my personal life at the sentencing. What they said, there was no harm to that because the judge didn't put him in prison anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that only to me proves that there's passionate when you argue a case. And sometimes, slips out once in a while, and you may go over the top a little bit. But I think the citizens of this county would rather have that Barry Porsch than a different one. So
I could have done nothing in this case when it first happened, and he would just collect benefits the rest of his life, and I would have been friends with everybody, and everybody would have been happy. But we can't allow somebody in this county or this state to collect benefits that they're not entitled to. I have to go to work every day.
Yep.
You and Jim have to go to work every day. Nobody's entitled to a free ride. Workers' compensation is there for people who actually get injured in the job, not for people who lie about it.
Exactly. Well, certainly a lot going on, and certainly, as you look back in the number of years you've been DA, has there any been second thoughts about becoming DA, or are you happy with where you are right now? I know you don't win every case, but you certainly have a big winning percentage.
I'm glad I'm DA. I have no regrets about running for the office. I work very hard. The hours I work here, probably more than I worked at the appellate division, which is about 80 hours a week up there. I work 7 days a week here.
Wow.
I was up last night past 3 o'clock in the morning talking to a police officer. So it is a 24/7 job. I look forward to the day someday when I'll be able to retire and be able to actually sleep 8 hours a night. I'm not sure when that's going to happen. It's a long ways down the road yet, but I do work hard. And I was brought up. My parents taught me to work hard and do a good job. And that's just the way I've been my whole life.
And, Meg and Peter, and along with Mark Sankiewicz and all of your ADAs, whether they're part-time or full-time, I'm sure their phone rings during the night as well.
Yes.
Because when an arrest is made, they have to be involved in it?
Well, a lot of times, police officer at the scene, they didn't go to law school, and they might have a question what to do. Should I arrest? Should I gather this evidence? What should I do? And they call us for advice, and that's what happens.
Because you got to be sure you're doing it right.
Yes.
Because if not,
we could all get sued if we make one wrong decision. So
Exactly.
we got to follow the law ourselves.
That's right. Well, before we wrap up, I certainly want to thank you for taking time out to come in this morning, and certainly look forward to coming up and checking on your new gigs and continue to follow the DA's office and some of the interesting trials coming down the road.
Well, I look forward to having you come up, see our new office, and watch some of my trials that are coming up.
We always do. Well, speaking of that, because we're friends, Barry, I've always appreciated your effort, and I've always appreciated the fact that you give it your all along with your team. And again, we should be proud to have you as our DA at Seneca County level because of the fact that you do care, and you show it on your face, you show it on your emotions, and that's something important to me as a citizen who's over 70 and a young senior citizen. So I appreciate whatever you do, and I ask that you continue it. I know you will.
Thanks, Harold.
All right, Barry Porsch, my special guest this morning, and we finally got him here, folks. So it's a Friday, and we hope you enjoy the interview. By the way, a couple other notes before we sign off here on a Friday. Jimmy Senecropi and his basketball great staff of FingerLakes1.com, some 30-some regular games scheduled on FingerLakes1.com. The team was down at New York Chiropractic College last week. They did 4 games in a row. And Jimmy did the last 2, and Brendan Harrington did the first 2 play-by-play. And coming up tomorrow, Jimmy's going to test his throat for all the works, right, Jimmy? Going to go for a triple header.
Yeah, 3 games in Waterloo. And the first one, dog, is really interesting. It's Newark, who are number 1 in our power rankings, playing their first game of the year against Jamesville DeWitt. And a lot of people think, who are Syracuse basketball fans, when they hear Jamesville DeWitt, they're out of Section 3. But this is the school that produced Andy Routins and Dwan Coleman and a lot of great D1 players. So it's a storied Section 3 program against the best we have in the Wayne Finger Lakes. And that's how it opens up.
Doesn't Boeheim's kid play there, too?
Buddy Boeheim, yep.
Buddy Boeheim. Jimmy Boeheim will be in Waterloo tomorrow. And that game will start at 4 o'clock. And Lions takes on Penn Yan at 6 o'clock. And Waterloo takes on Wheatsport at 8 o'clock. Jimmy will have the call of all 3 games. And he'll be...
along with Michael Essio and Dennis Leahy. We have a 3-man booth for that one.
Good. Again, keep taking that green tea, Jim. Been there, done that. Man, oh, man. Hey, by the way, how about them Cowboys? If you're a Cowboy fan in the NFL, you got to be dancing the streets. Barry's smiling. They lost their first game to the Giants. How have they done since then? They won 11 straight. 11 straight. A great game last night. I watch most of it. I never stay up after 9:30. Barry's up till 3 o'clock in the morning talking to a police officer. I'm in bed at 9:30. See that, Barry? That's the age difference. But the Cowboys, 11 straight victories. You know, Jerry Jones has never smiled as much, the owner. And, hey, you got to give credit where credit is due. They're on fire. By the way, upcoming guests, just so before we wrap up the show, Monday, Barry will appreciate this. It's a big event. It's the Wonderful Life 5K run put on by Jeff Rook and Korzaneski and their team. Jeff's dad will be in here. Jeff Rook will be here. His father will be here. And Katie McIntyre will have a threesome here on Monday. Katie's going to talk about her big event, which is the fantastic event that she ran last year, which was a huge success. They'll be back in the month of May next year to run her event. And, of course, the Wonderful Life run, Jimmy, runs, I believe, the 10th of December.
Yeah, which is a week from tomorrow.
Yep.
And this could be the biggest one yet.
Jeff Rook and his father and Katie McIntyre will be my guest on Monday. Then on the 12th of December, a guy that is quite popular right now, because he holds the key to the casino. Executive Vice President, General Manager Jeff Babinski, who's been on the show 3 or 4 times since he came to town. Folks, February 1st, you think about DA's job of controlling crime. We hope there's not much out there, but, you know, anytime you have a major casino, it's going to certainly wake up Barry and his team because you never know. There's a lot of people going to be going to this place. February 1st, they're going to have a 10 o'clock grand opening meeting. I don't know if it's called a grand opening. They're going to open the doors to the public at 10 a.m. on February 1. Before then, they're going to have a session with all the dignitaries throughout the state. I'm sure Governor Cuomo will be asked to come. A lot of other people will be asked to be there. Then they'll have a press conference. And then at 10 a.m., February 1, they will open the doors to the general public, and the casino will be alive and well. And so Jeff Babinski will be my special guest on the 12th, and that interview may go a little longer than 30 minutes. He's going to have a lot to say, I'm sure. And they're keeping things under the wraps, too, boy. We're going to go out there with our cameras with Jimmy and myself and take a whole bunch of video. And Jeff kind of put the kibosh to that, saying, wait a minute. I want to keep this so it's spectacular and it's rolled out like, you know, a brand new car. And I understand why. Because if me and Jimmy went out there and Jimmy took a ton of video, they would lose some suspense of what they're about to see on February 1st. So good move, Jeff, keeping us out of there for shooting video. And then our last show of the year will be a young lady from good old Seneca Falls, Maddie Hillmeyer. Maddie Hillmeyer, an outstanding athlete, going to the University of Hartford, an outstanding athlete. She also wants to be into broadcasting. She's been on my show a couple of times. She's actually done the show with me. She's got a great career ahead of her. And it's funny, Barry, you went to college, and so did Jimmy. I was reading about Maddie this morning. She goes to the University of Hartford, and she's an outstanding softball player. And they were talking about just releasing a 57-game schedule. 57 games. So, of course, I had a comment on her page saying, dumb question, when does she go to class? Jimmy, 57 games.
I think they have a fall season and a spring season and probably some winter season.
They go to Virginia, they go to Florida, they go to L.A. What is up with that? That is nice. That's a nice trick if you get it. They have tutors alongside, I'm sure.
I don't know much about college softball, but Maddie can tell us.
Wow. So Matty Hillmeyer will be my final guest for 2016. Barry's still shaking his head. 57 games. Pretty amazing. I don't know. It's the way it goes, I guess, in the world of sports. Well, again, thank you, Barry, and we'll look forward to having Barry come back on in 2017 to update us on what's happening in the DA's office. So speaking for my friend Barry Porsch, the District Attorney of Seneca County, along with Jim Senecroby, this is the dog bidding you farewell. Have a great weekend, everybody.